the Indie Author Life Show. I'm MG Hunt, and today I'm thrilled to welcome the hardworking and writing powerhouse, which is Laura Catherine. We're going to discuss their latest upcoming project, which is Enemies to Booksellers, as well as their writing process and their author life. So, welcome, Laura, to the Indie Author Life Show, and I'm honoured to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, thank
Very
you so
excited.
much. Include all the applause, little sounds and everything there. Yeah.
Yay!
It's a bit of a hot day today where we're filming, so hopefully there's no sweat dripping down our faces or anything like that.
Fine. Just
I know. Or it might be the hard-hitting questions that I ask. But oh my goodness, it's been such a joy to connect with you and also watch your journey on the Instagram platform that I pretty much follow you on. When I saw the Enemies to Booksellers cover, I personally love illustrative artwork and things like that. So when I saw that that was the cover, I was immediately like, yeah, interested in what is going to, include in this book. And it looks like a nice, cozy story, which I think is very popular in,
Yes, it's definitely a
yeah.
growing genre.
It is a growing genre, and it is something that I do gravitate to when I need a bit of a break from
Mm.
reading some of the heavier stuff. Because I know in your catalogue you also have written some trilogy. It was it a trilogy, or was there four books
Quad,
in the?
quad, what's a quadrilogy?
Yeah,
Four
yeah,
books.
a quadrilogy, and it was the.
I feel like
Is
I
it?
should know what that
I
is.
know. I don't even
A
know.
four book series.
A four-book series before that, is that right? With like, is
Yeah.
it Gin? D
Yes,
G
Jin.
I yeah, yeah. So I'm guessing that was more like a high fantasy, heavier sort of storyline compared to Enemies to
Yes.
Booksellers. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a YA paranormal romance fantasy
Hmm.
series, and yeah, definitely higher stakes and
Yeah.
more going on compared to Enemies to Booksellers, which is lower stakes and more cozy and warm, but still
Yeah.
like issues going on.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I think it's just goes to show your ability to switch into different genres in a way. I mean, I know it's still fantasy, but writing something that's a little bit more cozy and I guess fun in some way. I mean, I know there are some heavy themes in there, but yeah, I think it's awesome to see you switch a little bit too.
It's, yeah, it was definitely, yeah, it's still fantasy, I guess, but yeah, you didn't really write different genres beforehand. But I
Hmm.
fell in love with cozy fantasy after reading Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. And I just wanted to write my own, and it was kind of at a time where I was like not doing so great. So it was the cozy fantasy reading it was like really helpful for me. And I was like,
Yeah.
I want to write something like that that's just nice and warm and nice and not too like heavy, as you said, or
Yeah.
too too much. It's just
Too
like something
much.
you can read and be happy about and just like
Yeah.
be comforted by.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoy that too because there is a big space for it. And not all of fantasy has to be this big quest. I mean, it's very exciting when it is, but I
Mm,
know that sometimes I do like to gravitate to something a little bit more lighthearted in between. And I'm sure a lot of readers and authors are kind of like that,
yeah.
where you just need a bit of a break sometimes. So that's really cool to see you be able to write, yeah, two different sides of fantasy as well.
It's
But
been
I
really
know
fun.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm sure it was a lot of fun, but I should probably stop derailing from the actual questions that I sent you. Perhaps we'll start with the first one that I've got here, which is I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and where you grew up and if that impacted your writing as well.
So I'm Laura Catherine. My pronouns are they, them. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I've always lived there.
Hmm.
And I honestly can't imagine living anywhere else.
No, neither. I'm the same as you. Yeah, I'm a Melbourne
I love Melbourne.
person.
It's just a really nice place.
It is. It
And
is.
what else about me? I'm married. I've got two kids. I've got two
Yay.
cats.
Ooh,
Um,
two cats. Love that.
which are
Love
very cute. I
cats.
think they're sleeping on the bed over there. But they
What are
are
the
close by. They are very cuddly cats that like to be near me at all times or on top of me.
Love that. Love that. It's very similar to my cat too. What are the names of your fur babies?
We've got Zuko, who is named after Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Avatar,
and we
yeah.
have Rue, who's just she's just Rue.
Oh, she's just Rue. What colors are they?
Zuko is a tabby, so he's like brown and white and black. He's like lots of different colors, and then Rue is a
Yeah.
black and white, and she's
Oh,
the
beautiful. Yeah.
biggest cuddle monster you've ever seen. She'll just come
Yeah.
and like sit on your face and just like love me.
Oh, she's so gorgeous. I mean, I talked a bit about this with Jess McFarlane in the other interview that we did just recently about her German Shepherd dog, Sam, and how Sam's always, around and everything like that. And I'm sure the fur babies are around in your world when you're writing and things like that too. Is that right?
They
Yeah.
definitely are.
Yeah.
I think I posted a video recently where Zuko, I was trying to edit and Zuko just like kept moving closer and closer and like putting his paws on top of my work. And I'm just like, I need to
You
do
need to
this. This
go.
just later.
Well, just before I started recording with you, I had to shove off my fur baby from the seat because she loves this seat. And we've had to put down, and I know I probably won't be able to show this because it's blurred. I have like a little like
Oh yeah.
furry fake sheepskin mat that I have to put on the chair to make sure that when I shove her off, my butt doesn't get furry because her fur gets everywhere. So we've tried to mitigate that by putting it on there too. But they just love it. I think it's a relaxing process. Well, hopefully most of the time when writing. So I think they like to come around and just sit with you and chill out with that stuff there
Yeah.
too. So Zuko is your writing buddy, and same with Rue. It's very
Yeah.
gorgeous. Love that. I love the fur babies. Moving on to another question that I have about your writing life. I would love to know what a day/week in the life of Laura Catherine looks like in regards to your writing process. And I'm very interested about this because I know a lot of people might see and have little snippets of what you put in every day about
Mm.
your writing life and world, but I'd like to hear it from yourself about what that looks like, including maybe the filming process too.
Yeah. So it varies from day to day because writing isn't my full-time job. I also
Hmm.
work casually in childcare and I look after my kids, well, my son because my daughter's in school,
Hmm.
a couple of days a week as well. So it definitely depends on the day. So it's a lot
Mm,
of fitting in writing around other things. So it's like if I'm working late, I'll do writing in the morning, or if
yeah.
my son's home with me, then I'll do some writing in the middle of the day. And
Yeah.
so it's definitely about finding the time to do it. I try
Yeah.
to do it every day if I can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's definitely been a process of being like, I don't have to do it every day because that's, I think, a thing that a lot of authors go through is like you feel the pressure to like, I've got to do something every day. I've got
Yep.
to get this book done. And
Mm.
so I try to have a mindset of, I would like to do this, but if I can't,
Mm.
that is also okay.
Yeah, I love
Which
that. Yep.
comes across, I think, in because I do a daily video on my
Yes.
TikTok and my Instagram,
Yeah.
basically of what I've been doing that day. And especially recently, because it's the start of the new
Yeah.
year, it's been a lot of like, I'm not doing anything today, or I didn't have the energy to do it
Totally.
today,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind
I
of
definitely
thing.
relate to that. Yep, 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 yep.
And so, but the reason I started the videos was to motivate myself to do something. So
Mm.
a lot of the time, if I sometimes don't feel like writing, it's like, well, I've got to make a daily video. So I'll just do a little bit. So I'll set my camera up and I'll press record and I'll start doing something. At least then I've got the video done. And then most of the time it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm here now. And so then
Yeah,
I just start
yeah.
writing or doing what I need to do anyway.
That's a bit of a hack, a bit of a life hack there. It's like, oh, now I've got like a bit of surveillance. Like, oh, the camera's watching me. I better do something.
Exactly.
That's
So
so
yeah, it's
cool.
been a really good motivator for me. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's very much finding the time to do it. And I'm very much a plotter and a very big
Mm.
organized person. I have ADHD, so I need
Hmm.
to be very organized because I don't remember things well. So I
Yeah.
have like lists of things on my day. It's like, okay, today I'm going to do these things. Today I need to edit this chapter kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then I'll sit down and because I usually have planned everything out, it's a bit easier for me to
Yeah.
start doing it.
Yeah,
straight away kind of thing,
that's
which is
awesome.
nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think you're probably one of the first people that I have really got to know that is a plotter.
Really?
Yes, because I feel like maybe some people don't like claim the title for themselves, but do enact some of the things there.
Mm.
But I think out of the people that I've gotten to know and observed, I think you're the most, I was going to say like organized, but a lot
Extreme?
of people, but it works. Like I think the formula that you've got is some people might go, oh, that doesn't work for me because I like to, the pantser kind of vibe, which I'm
Mm.
getting to know the terms with that stuff. But the plotting and the way that you seem to have a routine that is very much down pat, but it's still flexible with your lifestyle. But I think it's very much admirable the way that you're able to yes, you've got the plotter side of things, but there is still very creative and it's still very fun for you to do
Mm.
because you post a lot of the time, every day pretty much.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. And I think out of a lot of people that I've observed, I mean, not everyone has the resolve to post every day, but you do, and it works. It's successful for what you're doing. And I think that I do look to you for a lot of like organizing and someone who can do the plotting stuff because I know I can't. I try to
Thanks.
write like a couple of I used to try and be someone that will write, 1,000 words a week. And
Mm.
eventually that worked for only until like a certain point. And then life gets in the way. And then you
Yep.
just go, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Like, I've got to, you know, because I also, writing's not my full-time job either. So this
Mm.
is all on the side. And, I work full-time as a graphic designer. So I try to um, just write a couple of words a day. But I do kind of teeter the line between like a bit of a pants, a bit of a plotter. But I'm guessing you love to plot more than pants, I guess.
Yes,
Is that your vibe?
100%. It's
Yep.
definitely, it's like, it's a spectrum. It's like, there's one end that's pantsing, one end that's plotting, and
Yep.
then you could be anywhere in between that. But
Hmm.
I think I'm very much on like the very end of the plotting spectrum
Yep. Yep.
for
If
me. But yeah, I didn't always used to be a plotter. I was a pantser to begin with when
yep.
I like first started writing because I guess I didn't really know that much about writing at the time.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
guess as time has gone on, because I've been like writing since, oh my God, how old am I?
Mm.
A long time, over 10 years.
Over 10
Um,
years. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that you kind of you learn, and I think a lot of it is like watching other people what they do or reading books and
Yeah.
trying out different things because I
Hmm.
feel like the way I plot now is very much taking bits and pieces from what I've seen other people do or what I've read about and then tailored it to fit the way
Mm.
I want it to fit, I guess. So like
Yeah.
it's definitely changed, but I feel like at this point in my life it's like the most easiest it's been
Yeah.
since I started writing.
That's interesting. So you feel like right now, after maybe, 10 years or so writing, you're finally feeling like now the routine that you've got is at its most potent, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And that's
It
just,
potentially would have been
Mhm.
earlier than that, but having kids definitely like slows down the process.
Yeah, but I've learnt as well. I don't have kids myself. One of the things I was thinking about is like, where does writing fit into your world? And you realize that, well, from talking to yourself, other people as well, is that children, it's still a big part of your life, but so is writing. So is
Mm.
writing. So you figure where both things kind of sit, and you don't have to stop your writing or anything like that when children come along, which of course, you can't get rid of the passions that are still inside you. But yeah, that used to be something in the back of my mind, thinking, how do I juggle both things? And you make it work. You make it
Yes,
work.
it's definitely hard when they're young. Like
Hmm.
there's definitely periods where I stopped writing altogether, just like when they
Mm.
were babies and stuff, because you're
Yeah.
tired all the time. And but
Yeah.
you kind of like slowly as they get older, you get more back into yourself, I guess. You get less of like, I'm
Yeah.
just a parent to like, oh yeah, I used to have hobbies and things that I like to do.
Yep.
I
Yep.
could do those again.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're continuing to write. So it's been 10 years pretty much that you've been writing.
10 years since I published my first book. No,
Oh,
11 years maybe now. Yeah, 11 years
yep.
since I published Gin, which was my first book, which was
Yep.
in 2013.
Wow.
I
Yep.
published it.
Yep. Yep.
But
That
I
is
was
amazing.
writing, like, I've always liked telling stories, and I've had like a very big imagination and like writing stories. And I
Yeah.
did like a lot of creative writing classes in high school. And then I
Yep.
did a writing course when I left high school in
Uh,
a diploma at uni as well.
yeah.
So
Nice.
for a very
Yeah.
long time, I've
Yeah.
always
That's
been writing.
awesome. So you've got a bit of like qualifications to do with creative writing and things like that as well.
Yeah, I did a diploma in professional writing and editing. So it was like, it wasn't just novel writing, it was like screenwriting and playwriting. And I just, at that point, I was like, I want to try everything because I didn't
Yeah.
know what I like. I liked writing novels, but like maybe there were other kinds of writing I liked doing as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So you have a bit of a background in screenwriting too, or that's something that you dabbled in a little bit?
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
actually really
nice.
fun. I do like screenwriting.
Yeah.
It's it's almost easier because you don't have to describe everything.
I was
It's like
just going to
a general
ask
like
about
this
that.
is the scene, but you know, if someone else was making the film, they'd work out where that was.
Yes, so that it would be, so you write the, I guess it would be the words and the dialogue and a few things, but then someone else in the team would come in and like describe the setting or create the setting and things like that. Is that how it
Yeah,
would
you
usually
would
work? Yeah.
probably you would just write like, oh, you know, they're in a park and kind of describe more like the movement, like actions, I guess, that
Yeah.
the actors would be doing and what they're saying. Like, oh, you know, one of them's sitting on a swing and the other one's on a slide and they're having a conversation. And then you write the dialogue
Interesting.
part of that.
So when you're writing your works now, do you come from it with a mindset of like, oh, what might this look like if it was turned into a film or something like that? Or is that like they're two separate things?
I feel like I did that a lot when like I was younger. I would think about it being a
Mm.
film and
Yeah.
like, you know, you have that dream, you're like, oh, I'm gonna write a best-selling novel and it's gonna get
Oh,
turned into a movie.
hey, you never know.
I think I would think about that a lot. I think it's like less so now. Now so
Yep.
I'm more of a like I don't need to be super famous. I would just like to find my people, my niche
Yeah.
and like have
Yeah.
a like yeah, produce books that people like, but doesn't necessarily need to be like
No.
I'm gonna be having a movie and be on talk
Yeah.
shows and things.
Because it's extremely rare, first of all, to
Yeah.
like get to that point. And also, you don't want the pressure of needing to achieve this amazing success to take away from the passion of writing. And I
Mm,
think that at the end of the day, that's the one thing that kind of, I don't know, not like keeps us going, but that's more important. And that's success if you're able to continue to do something that you love.
I
Yeah.
definitely agree. I think it's part of the reason I pick like self-publishing over traditional publishing is just like I
Yeah.
like connecting with people. I like I
Mm.
love being on my platforms and making videos and interacting with other people's
Yes.
videos. And I've met so many authors or readers and just having those
Yeah.
connections with them is just really nice.
You're thriving on it. And I can see that that's definitely a passion for you by posting every day too. But also, I have to agree with you when it comes to the world of self-publishing. I found a lot of joy in it. I used to really aspire to get my work published by a traditional
Mm.
publisher. And slow. I'm not sure whether this is a similar story for you, but I can imagine it's been a similar story for a lot of authors where you try and you query and you don't get anywhere. That was my
Mhm.
experience. And then you kind of go, well, maybe I could just give this a go by myself. And yeah, the connections that you build with other people, mostly through Instagram, I felt like that was the place that, or and TikTok, I think some people really like the book talk and find a lot of
They're very
success through
different vibes, but they both are really good.
Yes, and I actually don't use TikTok that much. Well, my sister likes to. She was the one that encouraged me to go ahead and
Mm.
start using it. But I just like, repost the videos that I put on there with that. But it's interesting that you say the platforms are quite different from each other. In your opinion, what are the differences between the community on TikTok versus Instagram in the book world?
I feel like, I think especially for Australian authors, I think Australian authors are much more active on Instagram than they are on
Yeah.
TikTok. Because I find when I post stuff on there, I get a lot more interaction from all of the Aussie authors or readers that I know, as opposed to TikTok, where it's more,
Yes.
I guess, abroad,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
the UK or the US, because
Yep.
I guess like it's bigger for them kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think almost Instagram's a bit more personal as
Yeah.
well, because I also post photos on Instagram that I don't necessarily post on TikTok, because TikTok doesn't really do as
Yeah.
well with photos as opposed to videos.
Definitely. Definitely.
So even just like stories or stuff, I'm more likely to post personal life stuff on my Instagram stories than I am on
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah.
So
That's so
yeah.
cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something to keep in mind where I should probably invest a bit more time into TikTok. But I remember I used to use it quite a bit just in like my personal life. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm like obsessed with this app. Like it's, you know, negatively impacting me a little bit, just scrolling, 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 which is probably why I decided to take a step back away from
It's
it. But
it's a
I should.
hard balance of like I
Mm,
can't you can't just post things. You also have to interact with other people's stuff. And like I want to interact with other people's stuff, but yeah, you get stuck. Sometimes you get stuck in that. Like I've been on here for an hour just like
yes.
going
And
through other people's stuff.
they get you, those apps. They're, designed to get you to scroll, scroll, scroll. But yeah, interacting as well. I find it is, to what you say, a little bit easier for me, and maybe being Aussie authors as well. I find, or I have found a lot of success communicating and meeting other authors on Instagram versus TikTok. But part of that is also that that's the platform I tend to use more. So
Mm.
you've inspired me to, come on, get into TikTok a little bit, and then I can connect with like more broad authors, not just the Aussie ones, but how can
They're
I
both
do?
fun. You just have to
Yeah.
find one that you're interested in and that you want to post on. Because like I
Yes.
remember when I went to pick one, I think I started on TikTok more and I really neglected my Instagram for ages because it's a lot to post
Yeah.
so many things. Like I do the opposite of you. So I post on TikTok and then I repost the stuff onto my Instagram.
Ah,
But it's a lot to
interesting.
like post it on multiple things. So like
Yeah.
yeah, at the time I was like trying out a few different like even like Twitter X and
Yeah.
threads and like you try them all out and kind of work out which one you like doing it. Because if you don't like posting
Yeah.
on the platform, you're not going to do it.
That's true. That's true. And sometimes it's just like, oh, if you're going to focus your energy on one platform, just do that. And at the end of the
Mm.
day, we are one people shows, so to speak. I don't know whether you might get, some other people do get help with creating their content and things like that for their social media. Yeah, I know.
All
Yeah.
doing everything.
Exactly. So when it comes to that, we also have to keep in mind that we have a lot of stuff on our plates. So if we can only post to one platform, like as you say, TikTok is your bread and butter, and then you post it onto Instagram, that gets the job done. So
Yeah.
yeah, focus your energy into one thing at a time. But
There's
oh
a
my
lot to do.
goodness. Yeah,
A lot to
that's
do when you're self-published, but I
oh,
like I love it. I'm also like a control freak, so like I like that I can control every little thing. I think if I had a publisher and they're like, "Oh, here's a cover we've designed," I'd be like, "No, no, no, no. I
oh,
want to be in control of that."
Laura, you're speaking my language. That is exactly my perspective on it as well. I want control. Maybe that's like the dark side of me. But yeah, I definitely go. You just hit the nail on the head about like, what if a publisher gives you a cover and you're like, oh, no, I'm not sure about that. Like that is 100% me. So I'm glad that we have control over the covers and the choice of the cover that you've made for enemies to booksellers is yeah awesome, and I will get into that in a little bit, but I do have another I think we've kind of touched on the third question that I have, which is when you write, what does your process look like, unless there's
Yeah.
anything, yeah, unless there's a
So a
little
lot
bit,
of plotting, a lot of
yeah,
plotting to organize myself because I have limited time. I
Yep.
want to be able to maximize it, which I think is a big part of me plotting. So I usually plot out, the entire book so that every time I go to sit down to write this little description of the scene that I'm going to write that day. And so straight away I can be like, all right, we're doing this scene. This is where it is. These are the characters. Let's
Yeah.
go,
Highly
kind of thing.
organized. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. That's super well thought out. And I guess that's part of like your process of being a plotter is you have everything written down. Do you ever get to a point where you have to, it takes you a bit of time to work out what the next part of the scene will be? And if so, do you find ways to work around maybe any creative blocks that you have, or do you find that it doesn't really cause you much of an issue when it
I
comes to
think
creative blocks?
it used to that, yeah, I would like sometimes you would write something and it's maybe not working, even though you plotted it out originally. You're like, oh, well, the story's kind of taken a little bit of a different turn and it's slightly
Mm-hmm.
different. And sometimes I would get stuck and I would just kind of like push my way through it, I guess. And now
Yeah.
I'm more at a point where I'd like, if I'm not too sure, or even if like some days where it's just like, I don't want to write this scene. Like I know it
Yep.
needs to be in this story, but I don't want to write it during the first
Yeah.
draft. So I've gotten to a point where I'm just like, I do like a dot, almost a dot point
Yep.
of a chapter. So it's kind of like, all right, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. They're gonna walk into the store, they're gonna have this conversation, this thing's
Yep.
gonna explode, and then they're gonna leave. And it's just like a dot dot of like, this is what kind of needs to happen, but I don't really feel like writing that part at the moment. I'm not entirely sure where it's going. So we'll just do
Yep.
this little dot point bit and we'll move on to the next scene and then we'll come back
Yes.
to it in edits. And that's
Awesome.
future Laura's problem.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. That's so relatable because I will try to do that sometimes, but then I get a bit like, I don't know whether you are like this, but sometimes I get a bit thing about it's like, no, I can't just leave it there. I have to go back and it has to make sense with what everything's going to go. But I got to take a leaf out of your book and just go, write some dot points, come back to it, and then I won't be slowed down because I know that I can get a bit like, um, I have to make sure that this scene is done so I can mentally move on to the next. Sometimes I'm the same as you. It's like I don't want to write that right now.
It's definitely hard. I try to think of it like I just want to get the first draft done because like once the first draft's done, like that's a book. It might not be a good book.
Yeah.
It might not be a
Yeah.
complete book, but that's a book. And it's
Yep.
like the bones and then you go
Yeah.
to the editing process and it's just like layering more and more of your story as you go
Yeah.
along. So
Yeah. You're
because
so
I think
right.
about it as layering, it's like, well, this layer is only dot points. And then in the next layer, we'll write that scene. And
Flesh
then
it
the
out a
next
bit.
layer, we'll make it better.
That's awesome. I think I'm going to employ some of that because I know the main thing is that what you said before, it's a draft and if it's a complete draft, then you've got the bones of the story there. And everyone has to go through, maybe not everyone, but the next step will be to edit. And I know in editing, I have gone ahead and rewritten certain things or realized, oh my God, I forgot to link that part up together. So, yeah, I
Where did
think.
that character go after
Yeah.
chapter three?
Why have I not
Did he
talked
come
about that?
back?
What was their name again? I don't know. No, I love that idea. Yeah. Yeah. The layers are the best thing to do. I think I'm going to employ that. So thank you so much for the inspiration. When you do write, what's probably the most enjoyable part of writing for you versus an area of writing that is sometimes difficult to um, get into? I wonder your thoughts.
I would say the most enjoyable part is I for me is the plotting part of it.
Yes,
Like coming
yes,
up with the idea and brainstorming it and getting to work out all the characters and the world and what's going to happen in the story. But it's really fun because you don't actually have to write the story at this point. You're just like, here, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And that's all the later Laura's problem when they have to
yes,
like write the story then. But this is the fun part.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that's the most enjoyable. It's just like sitting down and working out all of the
yeah.
key points of it and getting to know the
Mm,
characters and what's going to happen and getting excited to like write the book.
yes, excitement because it's also like this is the beginning of something new. There's so much potential about where this story could go. And then the thought about, oh, now I actually have to write this. Oh my God, that's the next part.
Exactly. And the
Oh,
hardest part would probably be, I think, editing
mm,
in that it can be a lot if you got like a lot of things to change. So like maybe like your first big edit, you like have a huge list of like, I need to change blah, 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 this whole gigantic list. And I get overwhelmed by that. So I
Yeah.
usually try to organize it into like things that need to be like edited throughout the entire book, which are like huge,
Mm.
huge changes, to like
Mm.
little changes that is like, oh, I just need to change like this character's name or this name
Yeah.
of this place, or I needed to add this like little scene in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I try to break it up to feel like it's less stuff. And also like when you're editing, being like, oh, well, I don't feel like tackling like a really big edit today. So maybe I'll just tackle some of these small little changes so I can feel good about myself that I actually
Yes.
did some editing and got some done.
Bit of motivation to be like, oh, I did something today. Yeah. Well, anything helps. Like if you do a little bit, that's still a major part of the editing process, even if it is like making sure that you've got the names down pat. I remember going through and editing my first full-length novel, Still Waters Run Deep, and I realized that I hadn't given like the places or the islands in the world like a name. I just called it like they're on the North Isle and then the South Isle. And I was like, yeah, but like I need to kind of give that a bit of a zhuzh. And I thought, oh, all right, I'm going to change it to be like, different specific names. But that actually was a little bit of a process to go through and make sure every time a character references this place, you got to call it this name. And even though it was like a small change, like a name, it was still like, yeah, I've actually done something really good today. Like it's
This
actually more
book is so different now.
Yes, it's so different now. So I get that. I think that there's, even though it might be a little thing, like changing the names, or fleshing out a bit more of a character, or even describing what they look like, little things do make a big difference. And
Mm.
then it makes you a little bit more inspired to tackle the big edits that need to be done. Have you ever gotten to the end of a draft and changed like the entire ending or anything like that?
I rewrote the ending of Enemies to Booksellers twice.
Twice. Interesting,
Like
interesting,
not
interesting.
I one I guess the first one was probably like a major change and the second one wasn't as major, but it was like significant that certain characters were in different places
Ah,
towards the end kind of thing. But like I
yeah.
have three, four beta readers who have read like seven different versions of this book, and they all got confused. I sent them the
Yeah.
last one. And my husband is one of my beta readers, and another
Yep.
author friend of mine who I did my podcast with, Sarah.
Oh,
They
yes,
both read it,
yes.
and they were like, "I can't remember if this was a thing that happened in another version or not." And I was like, "I know, it's getting
They're
really
like,
confusing at this point."
don't worry about that one. Just focus on now, okay? That was a different story.
But yeah, I
Wow.
just get messages being like, was this in the original version or am I just thinking about a different version? I'm just like, I don't know anymore.
No, but at least you know that they're actually, reading them. They're, keeping you on your toes as well. Like, oh, damn, actually, yeah. Because it is like a joy when you get other people involved in your stories as well. Is your husband a big reader, like outside of your own work, or does he make a point to read your work alone?
He does read other stuff. He reads, I guess, more sci-fi,
Yeah.
like big, more epic kind of genre of books. So we have kind of different genres of books, but he's always read all
Mm.
of my books and beta read for me and gave
That's
me
so
free.
great. Yeah, that's a power couple right there. I know that my husband, he doesn't read fantasy, but he did make a point to read, I guess also be a bit of a beta reader for my stuff and that meant the world to me. Even though I guess actually, it is a bit of a joy when because I also draw the characters as well. And
Mm.
yesterday I showed him a picture of what I was drawing, and I was like, "Do you remember who that character is? Do you remember that one?" And he's like, "Oh, yes, I know who that is." So I feel like it's one of those things where I'm sure you do this as well with your husband, where you're like, "Oh, this character, that's something that they would do," or that's like, that reminds me of this one. So it's kind of nice to
It's
talk
very
about it.
cute. Whenever
Yeah,
I've got like a new book I'm working on, and he'll like ask me like, "Oh, what's the plot of it?" I'm like, "I can't tell you because I'll spoil it for when you read it. I need
exactly.
you to be surprised. If I give it all away, you
And
can't
they
give
go,
me proper
oh,
feedback."
I want to know now. But I think we're up to talking about enemies to booksellers in more detail now, which I'm very excited about. I know. So this is your latest
Ooh.
project that's coming out in a couple of weeks. Is that right?
Yep, on the 18th. What's today? The 4th. in 14 days. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Are you excited? Are you ready? Is everything good to go?
Everything's ready.
Yep. Yep.
I, I think I made myself more nervous because I booked myself to do a signing event on the same day it was being released.
Wow. Oh, that's so exciting though. So where are you doing the signing?
I'm doing a romantic affair in Adelaide, which is
Yes.
on January 18th. And yeah, I got accepted like a couple of months ago for it. And I was
Cool.
very much like, oh, this would be like so cool. Like my book's
Yeah.
coming out on the same day. It's so exciting. And I'm like, what have I done? I have to drive to Adelaide for a convention.
Yes. So you're
Like my
driving.
book
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. So is the whole family coming with you or is it
No, it's
yourself?
just me.
Just you.
I think I've been a bit over ambitious in that like I'm driving up on the Friday, the event
Yep.
is Saturday, and then I'm driving home on the Sunday.
Oh my goodness. But you know what? You just got to do it. I think you'll be high on adrenaline and you'll just push through it. I think that we always do
I'm
when.
hoping so. It'll definitely be an experience. It's either going to be like this was a major mistake and we're never going to do it again, or it's going to be like this wasn't so bad. We could totally do this again.
It's all learning. It's all fun. And I think, okay, so now that I'll make sure I get this out at least a week before the 18th. But guys, you got to check out Laura at a romantic affair on the 18th because their book is out. The Enemies to Booksellers is going to be ready to go on the day. So I know it's so exciting. I wish I could be there, but we're moving house on the 20th of January. So I know that weekend is going to be like,
Moving house is the worst. I never want to move house again. I just want to live where I am forever.
oh, I'm a bit like sad about moving from my little studio space here. But the good thing is that the next house that we move into, it's got 4 bedrooms. So one of them is going to be
Ah,
dedicated to me, just my space. So,
I'm jealous.
oh my
I'm
gosh.
so jealous. I'm like trying to fit
Oh,
bookcases. Everyone like, can we get another bookcase? And my husband's like, where are we going to put it? I'm
yeah.
like, somewhere.
I know, it's
I've
just
got
like a
books.
vibe. Or you could get like a little floating shelf somewhere, maybe above, and I don't know, like, you gotta fill the spaces with the books. So, but
Yeah.
you've actually got a really nice bookshelf. I think I've seen in your videos. Um,
Yeah, I've got two bookshelves that I have very much decked out, but I have more
yeah,
books. Like,
nice.
they're not starting to pile up, so it's starting to not look as good because I've got to just like layer them now.
That's all right. That can be a project for later on. We'll figure it out, all that stuff. Maybe you can turn a space in the backyard into like a little studio or something for yourself.
Mhm.
But at least we can
That'd be
write
nice.
anywhere with the laptop. But yes, so if I could be there, I would definitely be there because I know there's some really cool authors going to be at a romantic affair.
It's
I know.
very exciting. I've already
Yeah.
pre-ordered some books for it. I'm very excited.
Oh, so there'll be some videos. I expect to see a few little vlogs and things from the
Oh, there
event.
definitely will be. I'm so excited and completely nervous, but it's just because it's like when you haven't done something before,
Yeah.
you don't know what it's going to be like. So after this one, I'll be fine. I'll be fine at all of the other
Yeah.
signings.
You've done more than me. I've never done a signing, so I'll be looking to you to see what it's like to, do it on the event of your book release date on the 18th. So getting into a little bit more about your latest project, Enemies to Booksellers. First of all, love the title. It's
Thank
definitely
you.
evocative of something interesting. So I have on my little list about what I'm going to ask you what you can tell us about the book. I was going to ask a little bit more about the tropes, but I think I kind of already can guess maybe one of the tropes if it's something to do with enemies to lovers, perhaps. I wonder if you can tell me a little bit more about the tropes that are included in Enemies to Booksellers.
Yes. So I guess it is enemies to lovers that they were enemies and now they're lovers. So they're already lovers at the start of the book.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of a trope, I guess,
Yeah.
but it's one that's already happened. Does that count?
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, because you get that. I think that would count. I think I did read a little bit more about the tropes that you put in. Did have a little post here. too. Learning to trust, I think, was something, and I know maybe that's not like a uh what do you call it? Like the name of a trope that people recognize. But I'm wondering if you
Mm.
can tell us a little bit more about that because I really like that and I think it matches with the cozy vibe of enemies to booksellers. So,
Yep.
yeah, what's
So,
your story?
the learning to trust. So, our main character is Morgan, and she is the mage for a villain.
Mhm.
And she's had a very hard life, I guess. She was very like shunned for her magic as a child, and so she's had a lot of people, I guess, break her heart and betray her. And so she's very closed off and doesn't trust like anyone or anything very much. And it's
Mhm.
about her like she's fallen in love with Echo, who is the hero's sidekick. So their bosses are enemies with each other.
Ah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
they've decided to like leave their lives behind and start a new life together, which is going to open a bookstore together and just live happily. But, things go wrong because, of course, they do,
Mm.
because Morgan has faked her death instead of actually telling her boss she was leaving. And Echo's boss, the hero, doesn't think that they're actually in love with each other and that he needs to save his sidekick
Ah,
from the villain's mage.
yeah,
So there's a
right.
lot of yeah, a lot of things going on, and it's a big part of the story is Echo and Morgan trying to work out how to be together because they've always dated in secret for a
Mm,
long time, and this is finally they get to be together, but also they're learning new things about each other because they haven't
yeah,
spent so much time together as
yeah.
well. So Morgan's kind of learning that she needs to trust in Echo or even all of the other characters that she meets along the way because it's another trope in it. It would be found family because
Yep.
there's a lot of talking creatures which are very adorable
That's so
in the story as
nice.
well.
Yep.
So yeah, Morgan is very much having a hard time with trusting people, and she's used to kind of doing her own thing and not letting other people help her or relying on other people because she
Yeah.
just thinks she's going to be betrayed,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. So it's dealing with a lot of topics that we see in, I guess, I'm just trying to think of like, I was going to say like everyday life, but it is in like a high fantasy world. And I think that's super unique because a lot of the time when it comes to high fantasy worlds and adventure stories and quests and fantasy in general, a lot of the time and effort in the books is spent on developing the world. But I
Mm,
really like how this book is. I mean, I haven't read it yet because I know it's not been released, but I'm anticipating the book really gets into the nitty-gritty about the interpersonal relationship
yeah.
dynamics between the two characters. Can't wait to read it because I think it does, as much as those topics can be heavy, I think that dealing with them allows there to be, and I'm guessing like getting through it and finding a resolution is
Mm.
quite comforting and also adds into the cozy vibes of it all. So,
Yeah, I've
yeah.
definitely tried to have the issues, but I've also tried to make it very like positive relationships, like green flag relationships, I guess, in that like
Yes.
I would want them to be able to talk about their problems, which is like I guess a part of the trope slash themes as well, is just
Yeah.
like them learning to communicate with each other in the right way and
Yes.
and learning how to be in a relationship together.
Yeah, yeah, I'm all for that. I really enjoy those kind of relationships, and I think that sometimes when it comes to romantasy and fantasy in general, sometimes the relationships, this is just my perspective, maybe it's a hot
Mm.
take or whatever, but like I think the relationships are depicted as being so grand and so like intense that it's kind of unrealistic. And
Mm.
it's okay, I guess, like it's no issue with that because I know it is fantasy and I know that it's an expression of what the authors are trying to show between two characters. But I personally enjoy reading stories where there are it's a romance, but it tackles some pretty realistic romance kind of tropes because that kind of
Mm.
gives me a nice like I don't know, like warm vibe inside to go that like, yeah, these are people that are going through similar stuff that maybe some other people would be going through in their
Mm,
relationships, or one person in the relationship is struggling to open up. And this is kind of showing the story in an exciting high fantasy world, but getting into some really important relationship issues that are a little bit more realistic than the fantastical die for your love, sort of like touch her and die trope and all that stuff, which has a place and it's
yeah.
definitely exciting. But I'm excited to see something a little bit more realistic in your work. So,
No, thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, I agree. I like both. Like
Mm,
I read romantasy and I read cozy fantasy, and
yeah.
they're very different. And it's nice
Yeah.
to have you can pick what you want to read and pick what you want to have.
Yes, there should be a space for that as well. Like we've got the really intense relationships that are like this undying love, which people love and eat that up. But perhaps for myself, I kind of prefer it when it's a little bit more realistic in that kind of way. So,
Mm.
yeah, and you're entering a space and creating a space for more of that realistic vibe to come through. So, I love that. I'm very excited to get my hands on that when I can. We've talked a little bit about the tropes. Can you tell us a little bit more? Maybe we've already touched on this, but a little bit more about the themes that are in the book. I don't know whether there's anything else that we haven't talked about that hasn't overlapped with the tropes, but let me know if there's anything else you can give
I guess
away.
I theme wise, I guess almost yeah, learning to trust is kind of a
Yeah.
theme, and then Echo is also learning to speak up is another I guess kind
Mm.
of theme throughout that because she's been with the hero for a long time and he's kind of been the one in charge. He's the one who's made all the decisions kind of thing. And so
Mm.
Echo is in a place where she sometimes doesn't know how to say how she feels because she's always been talked over.
Yep.
So she's kind of learning that. I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
theme or a trope.
Yeah, I think that's a theme. Well, I guess both in some ways. We can make our own trope for that. But
It's
yeah,
something that happens in the book.
yes, it's something that happens in the book. So that's exciting. Yeah, that's cool to stand on your own 2 feet. Yep.
And I think there's definitely a little bit of I guess discussion about like what is a hero and what is a villain and like the fine line between like it's not black and white of like you're good and you're bad. It's
Yeah.
exploring like their bosses, Avery is the villain and Liam is the hero. They have this big history. They've been fighting with each other for like 20 years over something that happened between them and they've because of what happened, they went down the path of hero and villain, but the villain isn't always villainous and the hero isn't
Yeah.
always heroic, and it kind of
Mm.
explores that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that it's good to have a bit of again, maybe it's going into the realistic element about human nature. You can't all
Mm.
paint one person as evil, one person as heroic. Yeah, I like to see that, and I think that's going to um connect really well to the main relationship that goes on between Morgan and Echo. Is that right?
Mm.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Got the characters' names locked in. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm very excited to see how that plays out in particular. Um, I did want to talk about the cover again, maybe
Mhm.
because I'm a little bit obsessed with illustrative
It's
covers.
so good.
Yeah, it's so great, isn't it? I'll just explain what it looks like as well to people just listening. So we've got, and I'm just looking at this on your Instagram page. So there's two people. Um, One has blonde hair, is holding a book, and is standing. This is the character on the left side. Um, they're wearing like a grey sort of long shawl, not shawl, but like a
Like a
tunic,
turtlenecky thing.
turtleneck top, long blue skirt, and they're looking across at another character who's by the fireplace, holding, is it a cup of tea or
Yeah.
like a mug? Yeah, yeah, with green hair. So those are Morgan and Echo.
Yep.
Yep,
So
yep.
Morgan is the blonde one and Echo is one with green hair.
The green hair. I love the green hair
Yeah.
as well. So those two. standing in front of some bookshelves. The bookshelves are kind of similar to the ones I think I've seen in your videos in a way. Yeah, the
I
duck.
love knickknacks. Like bookshelves need to have like lots of things on them,
Yep.
lots of decoration.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to reference the bookshelf that I have in my studio, but well, as in the study that we've got, but I packed everything away. But I definitely had like my little Pokemon cards and my Nightmare Before Christmas little things on my knickknack shelf as well. So I'm guessing there's a few of those. Yes, there are definitely a few knickknacks in the bookshelf, like some plants and what else can I see in there? Candles as well. So it's definitely a cozy vibe on the cover
And lots
too.
of ducks. Ducks are a thing in this book.
Ducks. You heard it here first. There are ducks in the book. Ducks are a theme. Ducks are a trope. No. But that's
Yes, we have
cool.
the duck trope.
Yeah, we can start that. Let's start that. The duck trope. You don't really know what it means until you read this book, but
Yep.
ducks. We will not say anymore. But yeah, so that's the cover. And who was the artist who designed the cover for the book?
So my artist's name is G. She's Australian.
Yeah.
She's a lovely artist. She usually used to do a lot of like D&D character art, and so I have
Yes.
some gaming friends who had gotten her to do some D&D character art. And when I
Yep.
was looking to do the cover for Enemies to Booksellers, I really liked the way she did the because this
Yeah.
cozy fantasy and being high fantasy is very it's like D&D vibes, like very
Yeah.
kind of that similar vibes. So I really loved her style.
Agree.
So she'd never done a cover before
Ah.
when I asked her, but she was very keen.
Yep.
So I'm the first cover she's ever made.
That's so
And she absolutely
exciting.
nailed it.
Yep.
She was absolutely incredible and such a joy to work with. I cannot wait for her to work on more
Yeah, that's what I
of
was going to ask
covers
as
for me.
well. Yeah, do you think this might be the direction that you take for other books that you're writing, whether you'll do like a very illustrative cover for your other books eventually?
I don't know about other books. So Enemies to Booksellers is a standalone, but it's going to be part of like a series where other characters from the book kind of have their own books.
Ah,
So I've
nice.
written the first draft of the second book already, which I'm currently editing, which is
Goodness.
exciting. So I'm
Wow.
already
You
like
don't
thinking about
stop.
what the second cover is going to be like.
Oh, so that could be a very similar one to what is currently shown for Enemies to Booksellers then.
Mm.
But maybe some of your other work that's outside of this universe, that might be, that can be you don't have to think about what's going to happen with that right now. But yeah, I'm excited to see more of this illustrative cover stuff coming out. So shout out to, was it G?
Gee,
The
yeah,
S, so
tag
people can
her.
have a
She's
look.
doing
Yeah.
amazing stuff. She just like I just told her like wanted bookstore. I wanted it to be cozy with the fireplace and
Yeah.
all of the ducks. She also did in the paperback version. I've got ducks as chapter header art in it, and she did a bunch of them as well. And everyone who's like done read it
Yep.
recently. Like people just send me like messages being like, I love the duck art in the book. And I'm like,
It's
you did
like
such a good job. And it was
that's
such a
awesome.
last minute thing. I happened to be just like formatting the paperback at the time. And I
Yep.
was looking at other cozy fantasies. I was like, oh, what do all the other cozy fantasies look like? And they all had like pictures, like most of them were like of cakes and tea and stuff. And I was like, I want to have pictures in mine. And then I was like, ducks.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. Yep, the duck is going to become, we're going to make a thing of this. It's going to be synonymous with enemies to booksellers. The duck. You might have to put some more. Well, when we read it, hopefully we'll see more about what the ducks really mean.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I love that. I think that's such a great idea. And I'm really glad to hear that the working relationship that you have with G worked so well that, she was able to create exactly what you wanted in a
Mm.
cover as well. So maybe there can
It
be more
was
people that.
Yeah, it's so crazy sending something to someone and just being like, this is a couple of sentences of like, I want this, and this is what the character looks like, and this is like with a couple of like reference photos of like from Pinterest or whatever, and
Yeah.
then for them to come back with like a full-on drawing, and you're like, what?
bring away some
How did you make
memories.
my random ramblings look like that?
That's her skill. That's where it comes from, and I love that. I think that's an awesome skill that she's got. So there might be some people that also have a look and at her page, and maybe she might do more cover art as well. But definitely for D&D
Definitely
characters.
check out her stuff.
Yes,
So
please
good.
do. I love illustrations and I love illustrative work. So I'm going to definitely check her out. I might already be following, I'm not sure, but I'll have to have a look and suss out that. I'm just going to check the time real quick so that I know. Oh, yeah, okay, we're good for time. We're good for time for now. 15 minutes, I think I've got left. I don't know. I can't work out what time it's going to be, but I will keep moving on so I don't run out of time because I know I can keep yapping forever. But I want to just quickly not reiterate, but just double check all the details about when people can expect to read Enemies to Booksellers. It's going to be on the 18th
Hmm.
of January 2025,
Yep.
and it's going to be available as an ebook as well as paperback
Yep.
and hard copy.
I haven't done a hard copy yet.
Hardcover, sorry, hard copy. Yeah. Um, not a hard, just paperback
Paperback
and
and ebook.
ebook. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's going to be great. And it's going to be available on Amazon. Is that
Yep.
right?
Amazon has the ebook and the paperback, and then the
Nice.
ebook will also be available on like iTunes and Barnes and Noble and
Nice.
anywhere that Draft to Digital
Yep.
posts all of their things because they're the
Yep.
other website that I post through. So
Yep.
I
Yep.
think it's
Yep.
also available for like library borrowing and things like
Awesome.
that as well.
Yeah, so widely accessible. So we'll make sure to direct people to go onto your page on Instagram slash the book talk TikTok, and you can access it there. So that's going to be coming out very soon with that.
So soon.
Yeah, I know. And I did have a question on here, which I know we've already talked about. Are you planning to have a release event in person? Yes, you are. And it's at, oh, I've just lost the title of it, A Romantic Affair, Adelaide Entertainment Centre. So if you're in
Yep.
Adelaide, you gotta go. You gotta
You can
check
get
Laura.
the book paperback signed copy on release day from me.
How good's that? You got to be part of the moment. This is a momentous moment for you, Laura. You're going to be doing it in person. If you're in Adelaide, you've got no excuse. You have to go. You have to check Laura out at a romantic affair.
You gotta
Do
come.
you have some other little merch or other things available as well to
Yes, I
do with?
have a bunch of swags. I've got a bunch of like character art and maps and bookmarks and stickers and
Yeah.
things that you
Oh,
can get if you buy a copy of the book. I'm also
yeah.
on the day I'm running a little raffle as well. So anyone who buys a copy of Enemies to Booksellers from me on the day goes into a raffle, and a couple of other authors who are signing at the event have donated some books and swag and stuff as well for it, which is very nice of them. So thank you
Awesome.
very much to those people.
How exciting.
So that will also be very exciting.
Yeah, that's so cool. So those are some more incentives to go there and check it out. It's going to be big. It's going to be exciting. Do you have any plans to? Now, I haven't done any research about this, so correct me if there are already links online on your link tree or website about this. But can you purchase merch to do with any of your writing online, or will it be just
Not
available in
yet.
person? Not yet.
One of my goals this year is to actually organize like my website so I can sell stuff through it. It was
Nice.
always like when Enemies to Booksellers comes out, then I'll get around to
Then,
doing
yeah,
organizing that. So that
yeah,
is a goal for this year is to organize my website to actually sell stuff through.
cool. So that's going to be, yeah, coming soon sort of thing. We can look
Yes,
forward to
coming soon. Stay
expecting.
tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. I just use Etsy to sell some of my little bookmarks and things like that.
Mm,
So I've done that before, but yeah, I'd be curious to maybe put that onto like my website, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, again, we're one people shows. Like
yeah.
we got to do everything. So
Gotta
that's
research all the different ways you can do something and work out what works for you and then set it up and
it's a lot. It's a lot. And we've got to work as well in our non-writing worlds. And you've got children.
unfortunately.
You've got your fur babies and your human babies and your husband. It's a busy world. Sometimes do you ever wonder like how do we do it all? I don't know how
All
we
the
do it.
time.
Yeah.
All the time. I don't know, I look back on my day, I'm like, how did I do all like well, how did I fit all of that stuff in? No wonder I'm so exhausted.
Yeah, and you go because sometimes it does hit you. I don't know. Yeah, it definitely hits me sometimes. I'm like, I just need to take a break, like for a good maybe couple of days, and then I'll be back. But sometimes it definitely feels like, how do we do it all? But you
It's
just
hard to take a break. I've recently, because it's the start of the year, I purposely
mm,
was like, Christmas holidays, I'm taking a week off. And even then
yes.
I was still like, but I'm not doing anything. But I'm not doing anything.
But it just feels
Like
like
it's
the
okay to rest.
yes, yes, and resting is important, but sometimes I guess it doesn't feel like you're working when
Mm,
you're creating this stuff, which is a great way to feel, but at the same time it's like, well, you're still exerting energy. So
yeah.
sometimes you just have to um relax a little bit. When you do relax, do you read or do you game? Do you do other things like that or walk or
Yes,
yeah.
reading or gaming. It
Mm.
depends. I'm currently very hyper fixated on the boy band Stray Kids. They're a K-pop
Ah,
group,
K-pop.
and
Yep.
I've
Yep.
been just like watching lots of videos about them and listening to their music
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's your way to relax. Do you find that any of their music or any music in general like helps you get into the mood with writing or inspires some of your writing? I know this wasn't on the list.
Oh, definitely inspires. Like music definitely inspires me. When I write though, I listen to one song on repeat
Yep.
as a like, I guess it's like a trigger thing. It's just like when
Uh-huh.
I'm listening to this song, it is like it's time to write. And it's like the menu music to a game called Persona 5.
Ah,
And I've like
cool.
it's one of my favorite games. And yeah, the
Yeah.
menu music for that is just like it's kind of like a jazzy but like soft kind of jazzy
Yep.
tune. And yeah, so I just play that on repeat. And so when I play that, it's like, okay, this is the writing
This is
zone
the
now.
writing
We only
zone.
listen to this music when we're writing or
Yes,
editing.
I love that. I can relate a little bit to that with I do like to build little playlists on Spotify for the books that I'm working on and
Mm,
slash already done. And when I do listen to like the first song in the playlist, sometimes I'll listen to it when I'm at work at my day job and it will put me in the mood to think about the story. And then I'll go,
yeah.
oh, I'm just in a good mood now because I'm thinking about the story that I'm writing. And, so maybe it doesn't like necessarily go, I've got to write now, but it definitely puts me in a good mood to think about the story. So I love that. I love how music
That's
can
cool.
also. So do the Stray Kids, I don't really know much about Stray Kids, but does that music also inspire some of your writing? Because that's like your newest, well, maybe not super new, but that's like your fixation at the moment. Is that kind of maybe inspiring maybe some future books as well? I don't know.
Yes, definitely is. And they have a very wide range of like types of music, I
Uh-huh.
find. So like yeah,
Yeah.
there's like the boppy songs and the sad songs and the in-between songs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
like a story itself. So that's going to be interesting to see where that kind of leads you as well. So, well, I know that we have 8 minutes left on my Zoom free subscription. So I will wrap it up now before I keep yapping on. The last question I have, well, it's not really a question in some ways, but where can people find you on social media? Is
So
that Instagram?
I'm at
Yes.
Laura Catherine Author. I'm on like I think I'm like on all of the platforms at Laura Catherine Author, but I only really use like TikTok and Instagram. Like I'm
Yep.
on Twitter X and I'm on
Yeah.
Threads, but a lot of that stuff is just like posted
Yeah.
from the TikTok and the Instagram. So
Yeah.
if you really want to find out what's going on, TikTok and Instagram is the best place to find me.
Awesome. Yeah. And you also have a podcast too that you
I do
update.
have a podcast. It's called Bound
Yes.
Together,
Yep.
which I do with my friend and fellow author, Sarah Gray.
Yeah.
And we release episodes twice a month,
Perfect.
bi-monthly.
Yeah. Whenever it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So I think our last episode we released was we were talking about our goals for this year, our
Mhm.
writing goals. We start at the start of the year talking about like this is what we want to achieve this year, and then at the end of the year we do a wrap up and see how we actually went, which is always very funny.
And you felt like you achieved a lot of your goals from 2024 into 2025, or are there still some things hanging over?
I definitely achieved most of them, and then some of them were like publishing enemies to booksellers was one of them, but like that's a this year because it got
Yeah.
moved just timing wise.
Yeah.
And then also also making the website that I need
Oh
to do.
God. Don't even
So
go there. Oh my
some things
God.
didn't get done, but they
Ugh.
are like just it was timing wise, so they will be done. It was
Yeah.
just they're just gonna be this year. It's fine.
Doesn't matter. If it goes into years, what's another year? Going over from 2024 to 2025, it's just a day. So, we've got to keep
Exactly.
moving. Well, I shall wrap it up here. Laura, thank you so much for being on the Indie Author Show. I really appreciate all your insights into everything to do with not only enemies to booksellers, but everything to do with your very hectic and streamlined author life. I'm inspired to follow some of the plotting tips, posts that you put onto Instagram and TikTok. I'm super inspired to follow some of your hard work as well. So thank you so much for being a
Thank you.
part of this
Thank you for
today.
having me. I was so excited when you messaged me and you asked me to be on. I'm like, oh, yay.
Oh, I just thought it was like the perfect time because I had also, done my little blog posts about books I'm excited for next year, and I saw the date, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, if we can try and work this out, it would be really great if we can record a bit before the dates. I got time to edit. So yeah, I was like, oh, I hope she says yes, and you did. So yay! Oh my gosh.
Very excited. Very happy to be here. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
no worries. We'll have to do it again soon.